Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jagallabha Giridhari
Gopi Jagallabha Giridhari
Sudanandana Sajjana Ranjana
Yasodhanandana Sajjana Ranjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jagallabha Giridhari
Gopi Jagallabha Giridhari
Sudanandana Prabhu
Yasodhanandana Sajjana Ranjana
Yasodhanandana Prabhu
Yasodhanandana Sajjana Ranjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Ugram Vira Mahavishnu Dravata Savato Mukam Nishingam Vishnam Bhadram Mityu Mityu Namamyaham Ugram Vira Mahavishnu Dravata Savato Mukam Nishingam Vishnam Bhadram Mityu Mityu Namamyaham Ugram Vira Mahavishnu Savatomukam Nishingam Vishanam Bhadram Mityu-mityu-namamyaham. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Sarasatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tam Jayam Mudiriye.
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to Srila Vyasadeva Vyarta, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnuvadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharine Nirasesha Sunyavadi Paskachavir Satarine. So, yeah, we should be like Transcendental Minutemen, you know, like in the Revolutionary War. They were ready at a moment's notice. Your day? It is now. So, anyway, this is chapter 13 of the first canto. It's still in the chapter called Dhritarashtra Quits Home. And it's, I believe it's text 54.
Yes, sir.
So, not 39. Okay, I'll say, you say. Jita Shano.
Jita Shano.
Jita.
Jita.
Swasa.
Shasha.
Jita Shano. Jita Swasa.
Jita Shano. Jita Swasa.
Pratya. You see. Pratyavita.
Pajarita.
Sat.
Sad.
Indriya.
Indriya.
Pratyavita. Sat. Indriya.
Pajarita. Sad Indriya.
Hari.
Hari.
Bhavanaya.
Bhavanaya.
Tvashta.
Vasa.
Hari Bhavanaya Tvashta.
Hari Bhavanaya Dasa.
Raja.
Raja.
Sattva.
Sattva.
Tamo.
Tamo.
Mala.
Mala.
Raja Sattva Tamo Mala.
Raja Sattva Tamo Mala.
Chitta Shano Chitta Swasa.
Jitasano, Jitasvasa.
Pratya Ritta Sat Indriya.
Sadindriya.
Hari Bhavanaya Tvashta.
Hari Bhavanaya Dasa.
Raja Sattva Tamo Mala.
Raja Sattva Tamo Mala.
Chitta Shano Chitta Swasaha.
Jitasano, Jitasasa.
Pratyarita Sat Indriyaha.
Pacharita Sadindriya.
Hari Bhavanaya Tvashta.
Hari Bhavanaya Dasa.
Raja Sattva Tamo Mala.
Raja Sattva Tamo Mala.
Chitta Shano Chitta Swasa.
Jitasano, Jitasasa.
Pratyarita Sat Indriyaha.
Pacharita Sadindriya.
Hari Bhavanaya Tvashta.
Hari Bhavanaya Dasa.
Raja Sattva Tamo Mala. Anyone else?
Jitasano, Jitasvasa. Pacharita Sadindriya. Hari Bhavanaya Dasa. Raja Sattva Tamo Mala.
Jitasano Jitasvasa.
Jitasano Jitasasa.
Pratyarita Sadindriyaha.
Pratyarita Sadindriyaha.
Hari Bhavanaya Dashta.
Hari Bhavanaya Dashta.
sattva tamo malaha.
Raja Tamo Malaha. He should be the Pandit.
He is on Mondays.
What?
On Mondays. He does this, he does Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay, well, he should do the Sanskrit like, Prabhupada's Pandit, Yeah, we should
It's not fair because he went to college and all,
Yeah, but
He's got
not in
He's
Sanskrit.
given him the
I went
ability
to
to do
college,
it.
I don't know, anyway. Okay, so with any of the Matajis, like?
Jita Sano Jita Swasa
Jitasano Jitasvasa
Pratyarita Sadindriyaha
Pratyarita Sadindriyaha
Haribhavanaya Dvamsta
Haribhavanaya Dvamsta
Rajasattva Tamo Mala
Rajasattva Tamo Mala
Jitasana Jitasvasha.
Jitasano Jitasvasa
Jitasa Indriya.
Prajahita Sadindriya
Hari Bhavanaya Drashta.
Hari Bhavanaya Dvasta
Rajasattva Tamamala.
Rajasattva Tamo Mala
Jitasana Jitasvasa.
Jitasano Jitasvasa
Rasyata Sadindriya.
Prajahita Sadindriya
Hari Bhavanaya Drashta.
Hari Bhavanaya Dvasta
Rajasattva Tamo Mala.
Rajasattva
Tamo Mala.
Thank you. Jita Asana,
Jita Asana,
one who has controlled the sitting posture.
one who controls the sitting posture.
Jita Svasa,
Jita Sasa,
one who has controlled the breathing process.
one who has controlled the breathing process.
Pratyarita,
Pratyarita,
turning back.
Turning back.
Sat,
God,
6.
Yes.
Indriya,
India,
senses.
senses.
Hari, the
Hari,
absolute personality of Godhead.
that pure personality of Godhead.
Bhavanaya,
Bhavanaya,
absorbing.
absorbing.
Tvashta,
Rasa,
conquered.
God.
Raja,
Raja,
passion.
person.
Sattva,
Sattva,
goodness.
goodness.
Tama,
Tamo,
ignorance.
ignorance.
Mala,
Mala,
contaminations.
contamination.
So the translation, I'll say, you say. One who has controlled the sitting postures,
One who has controlled the sitting posture,
the yoga asanas,
yoga asana,
and the breathing process,
and the breathing processes.
can turn the senses,
Controlling the senses
can turn the senses toward the absolute personality of Godhead,
toward the absolute personality of Godhead,
and thus become immune
and thus becomes immune
to the contaminations
to the contamination
of the modes of material nature,
of the modes of material nature,
namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance.
mundane, goodness, passion, and ignorance.
So, one who has controlled the sitting postures, the yoga asanas, and the breathing process, can turn the senses toward the absolute personality of Godhead, and thus become immune to the contaminations of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. So Narada Muni is explaining to Yudhisthira what Dhritarashtra is doing. He's performing Astanga Yoga, or Dhyana Yoga, in order to attain liberation. So the purport is, by Srila Prabhupada, the preliminary activities of the way of yoga are asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, etc. Maharaj Dhritarashtra was to attain success in those preliminary actions because he was seated in a sanctified place and was concentrating upon one objective, namely the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, all his senses were being engaged in the service of the Lord. This process directly helps the devotee to get rid of, this process helps the devotee to get freedom from the contaminations of the three material modes of nature. Even the highest mode, the material mode of goodness, is also a cause of material bondage. And what to speak of the other qualities, namely passion and ignorance. Passion and ignorance increase the material propensities of hankering for material enjoyment, and a strong sense of lust provokes the accumulation of wealth and power. One who has conquered these two base mentalities and has raised himself to the platform of goodness, which is full of knowledge and morality, cannot also control the senses, namely the eyes, the tongue, the nose, the ear, and touch. But one who has surrendered himself unto the lotus feet of Lord Hari, as above mentioned, can transcend all influences of the modes of material nature and be fixed in the service of the Lord. The Bhakti Yoga process, therefore, directly applies the senses to the loving service of the Lord. This prohibits the performer from engaging in material activities. This process of turning the senses from material attachment to the loving transcendental service of the Lord is called pratyahara, and the very process is called pranayama, ultimately ending in samadhi, or absorption in pleasing the Supreme Lord Hari by all means. One who has controlled the sitting postures, the yoga asanas, and the breathing process can turn the senses toward the absolute personality of God and thus become immune to the contaminations of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, it's interesting that I find that Dhritarashtra is being engaged in this particular process when we're, because, the Bhagavatam was spoken to Sukadeva Goswami, by Sukadeva Goswami, to Parikshit Maharaj, who is Dhritarashtra's like his great uncle. And that happens probably just within 30, 50 years of this. And I just found it very interesting that Dhritarashtra is engaging in a process of for liberation that is really recommended, I believe, in the Satya Yuga. And but he does it successfully. And I was wondering why Vidura wasn't telling him to do that instead of sitting down on the banks of the holy river in a sanctified place and engage in hearing about the pastimes of the Lord. And of course, he was in a sanctified place. It was a place where there's the Ganges is divided into 7 rivers. It breaks off to 7. And so it's called, I think I forget the name of it, but it's something like Saptosha. It's this place of 7 rivers. It's the Ganges. And you can see also that this is not an easy process to perform in any situation. Because first of all, in America, where's a sanctified place? The only places are where Srila Prabhupada performed his lila, or where there are installed deities that have been authorized by Srila Prabhupada. We have the monopoly on holy places. This place is a land of nothing auspicious. You drive around the country, and every historical landmark is a place of, where maybe some president was born, but it's also littered with the sites of the Civil War, battles were engaged here, and describes how many people were killed and slaughtered there, or the Revolutionary Wars. In other words, there's not anything auspicious here, and there hasn't been anything auspicious here until Srila Prabhupada came. For we have a monopoly on the sanctified places. But this process is not the recommended process for the sage. But to answer my question, which was, why was he doing this and not doing what Parikshit Maharaj did, is told later in the chapter, is because, and Vidura, by the way, is Yamaraj. So he knew that Dhritarashtra had not only offended the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his behavior and all the intrigues leading up to the Kurukshetra battle, but worse than that was, he offended the pure devotees, like Yudhishthira, Yamaraj, Bhima, and Sahadeva and Gokula. He offended the 5 Pandavas, and other devotees as well. So by being supportive of Duryodhana's intrigues and trying to usurp what was rightfully the Pandavas, and they were willing to share it with their cousins, but they didn't want them to have anything, not even enough land to put on the head of a pin. So, according to my understanding, is Vidura realized because he had committed this offense to a pure devotee, Vaishnava Param, the best he could hope for is liberation. And that could be liberation of merging into the effulgence of the Lord, the body of the Lord. And I've heard, I'm not sure, but I've heard that that was his destination. Although it does say, in some of the purpose, that he could go to any planet he desired, or someone who practices this process could. But Vidura knew that his offense limited him, and so the best he could hope for is to get liberation, and then possibly several births of going through liberation, taking birth again, engaging in philanthropic work, liberation, and finally till he gets out of this mess he's gotten himself in. Because the point is that the material world, every action is a reaction, and it's like I have these. If I tried to figure out where the beginning is of this thing on my the Brahmin threads from Srila Prabhupada, Chota Prabhupada on Ekadasis, I put them on, and one of them is from an Abhishek also. But it's impossible for me to unravel it. It would take me forever to try to unravel it. Like if you had a big knot, and say it's very, very fine, thin thread, and you're trying to untie it because you want to save the thread, and then as soon as you pull this way, you think you're free, and then it pulls something else, and you got a new knot, and it's just impossible. Finally, you just have to cut the thing, cut the knot, and we are completely entangled. There's so much karma that we have, we don't even, you can't even calculate. The chanting of the holy name is our saving grace. And so, in this age, it's recommended Harinama, 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 Evakera, Kalo, Stay, chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. There is no other way. There is no other way. There's no other way but this process. And this process engages all the senses. For example, this is such a difficult process. And you notice that it's the men who are doing this process. Gandhari is observing. She's not doing it. Women aren't going off into the jungle to do this. It's too dangerous. But what she has to do, she doesn't have to do, but she's the type of person that is that dedicated to her role as being a wife to her husband, that when he, at the end, consumes himself in the fire that he creates by his meditation, she'll enter that fire and follow him wherever he's going. So in this way, they're linked in that way. But that is no longer a recommended process. And it became, Prabhupada says, that at one point at the beginning of this century, it became a criminal thing because they would insist, the Brahmins would insist, that they would throw the women, whether they wanted to or not, into the fire. And this is not possible. This is not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be completely voluntary. And so
the English stopped it.
Yeah, the English stopped it. And but even Prabhupada saying it shouldn't be forced on anyone. And it's not even recommended now for us to do these kinds of things. Just like the story of Chota Haridas. Prabhupada said that that's an extreme example. It's a leela, it's a pastime, it's a play to educate us the seriousness of Haridas Thakur and Chota Haridas, and the importance of sannyas. But if not for us, Prabhupada was upset when he heard about Vishnu Jan Swami. But he also said that I heard that he said that Prabhupada had said that Vishnu Jan had come to him at night, and he was singing to him very beautifully, kirtan. So, like Chola Hari does. But this is not, Prabhupada didn't want this for us in this age.
I wonder if they would let you do it at the cremation places.
What's that?
If you wanted to.
At the wife?
Yeah, want to follow the husband at the cremation.
Oh, well, I mean, if it's in India, maybe, in Mayapur or something, yeah, I don't know. It depends on time, place, and circumstance. But the point is that it's voluntary. And you can see that this process, where these people are now, what they do is, in Kali Yuga, they make something that's supposed to be spiritual, they turn it into something material. Yoga is now these studios. They're these studios, and they're not in sacred places. They're not secluded, and they're all dressed kind of, in a way that's, alluring to some, depending on the situation. And it's for health, for losing weight, and for
meeting girls.
Meeting girls and meeting men. And, exactly. And so, and here, I'll describe to you, I'll read the description that Krishna gives of this process. To practice yoga, this is the type of yoga we're talking about. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place, should lay kusa grass on the ground. Where's that? I had a kusa grass mat once, but I had it in India. It's not growing here now. A kusa grass on the ground, then cover it with a deer skin. And why? Because it repels snakes. To do this process, you can't be intimidated by the sound of a boar, one of these wild boars coming at you. And in the jungle, a tiger, or if a snake happens to crawl across your lap. You still have to stay focused on, it'll say here. And on top of the deerskin, a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low, should be situated in a sacred place. Again, where's the sacred place? In the middle of a city, in Picayune or some small town. I mean, some of these people, they come for the cowfish, they're doing things, but, so this is a sacred place, at least they got that one. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities, and fixing the mind on one point. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Not me, but Krishna. Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. There is no possibility of one becoming a yogi, or Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. That's another reason. If they want to lose weight. Why did you gain the weight in the first place? Why are you overeating? Especially, this town is the land of obesity. What do they call it? When it's extreme. That's extreme here. He is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work. Can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he's said to be well established in yoga. This is a nice verse. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayo, vachangsi vakunta gunan nivarnane, haro hari madira mahajana desu shrutim chakachuta satkato padaye. King Ambarish first of all engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then, one after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord. his hands in mopping the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental forms of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his sense, or the deities, his sense of smell, in smelling the scents of the lotus flowers offered to the flower of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaf offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs in going to places of pilgrimage in the temple of the Lord, his head in offering obeisances to the Lord, and his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendental self. And then this is in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material and mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized of one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. And that joyous state, in that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. Upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actually freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So, to try to do this in this age, and the other thing is, I didn't remember reading it here, but it says that when you're meditating, you're supposed to stare. You shouldn't keep your eyes closed. You should have them partially open and stare at the tip of your nose. And keep everything fixed, and nothing can distract you. And there's the example, here's the example of, it's Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, right? Yeah, Vishwamitra, or was it Vashishta? Who meditated for 60,000 years. And he heard the ankle bells of Mango. And
Vishwamitra.
Vishwamitra, yeah, Vishwamitra. So, well, in this meditation, you can't be distracted by the sound of anything. Whereas in our meditation is we capture the mind we use the tongue to vibrate the holy name, and then the ears to hear the holy name, to drink in the holy name, and then that captures, or should capture, the mind on the sound of the holy name. And the name and the named, Krishna, are one. It's not different. Whereas I'm different from my name, Krishna is not different from his name. So you're absorbed in Krishna, and this meditation is to be fixed on the self. So in this age, this is the practical process in order to achieve the goal of yoga, real yoga. Not this yoga that's being touted in all the yoga studios and so on. They've just taken something and they learn some exercises, and hopefully it's going to it's a good social way of meeting with people. And this is what they do in Kali Yuga. And so apparently, this was very upsetting to Kali. But at least there's a play to this effect that was written by Kavi Karunapura, who is also named as Paramananda. And he was approached by Maharaj Prachaparuja to write a play.
Is the son of Shivananda's name?
Yeah. And he asked him to write a play after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya. They were at a Rath Yatra, and he says, "You see, that's the same Lord Jagannath. Right there, that's the same Lord Jagannath. And that's the same Rath Yatra car. That's the same Kundicha temple. And there's the garden of the Lord. And he's experiencing ecstatic symptoms. But it's like a desert, because there's no Lord Chaitanya. He's left us. So you, Kavi, your words, Kavi means poetic words, Karan means nectar, and Pura means ear. Your poetic nectarian words in my ear, you create a lila, pastime, a play, because the Lord's not different from the play, about Lord Chaitanya's appearance and all of his other. So there's one play that he wrote, it's called Chaitanya Chandradroya. Am I pronouncing that correctly? And part of the play, Kali is very upset. He's surrounded by his compatriots like irreligion, deception, lies, greed, the personification. They're people, actual people that are false pride, envy, greed, anger, and they have assistants. And they all work in concert with Kali. This isn't poetic,
Allegory.
yeah, this is the real deal. So, in Kavi Karunapura's play, Kali is sitting, and with that, all of them, and he has a nice residence, and all of a sudden he's trembling. And they're thinking, what is this? He's not experiencing ecstatic symptoms of love of God. Is he epileptic? What's going on, Kali? What's happening? He said, he's coming. He's taking birth. And they go, what are you talking about? What? He said, no. Lord Chaitanya is taking birth. Mother Sachi's son. And they're like, what are you talking about? He said, this is your age. This is the age of Kali. And then they start quoting from I think it's the 12th canto. It says that because in other Kali Yugas there's no Lord Chaitanya, and it says in the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam that everyone in Kali Yuga is doomed. The best you can maybe do is get to a heavenly planet. There's no hope. There's no religion. There's no good qualities. Nothing. Only. But then it says in the 9th. I think it's the 9th canto. It says that, I'm not sure which canto it is. Maybe it's the 10th, no, maybe it's the 10th canto.
Should be 12th canto.
Maybe the 12th, But there's a verse in the Bhagavatam that says, in this Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya will come. And this Kali Yuga, there will be bliss that will defeat lust, defeat greed, defeat all of the qualities of your religion. Kali's kingdom will be shattered, and he knows it. And he's really upset. And everyone is trying to say, no, don't worry. These people, we'll send envy. He can deal with it. He'll make them envious of each other. No, you don't understand. They're going to experience pure love by chanting his holy name, pure bliss. Well, then we'll make them, they're always greedy for more. No, and greed will all create, all kinds of, more, envy again. They'll work in concert. No, they'll get greedy for the taste of Krishna's name, of the taste of this process that he's bringing. No. And anyway, he was born on an eclipse. It was an inauspicious day. Don't you get it? That was arranged. He arranged that because he knew that they would all be chanting the holy name on an inauspicious day. And then one of them says, he compares it to this example of when a crow lands on a branch. And when it lands on the branch, a fruit from above falls and hits him on the head. So they say, because the crow landed on the branch, the fruit fell and hit him on the head. And then others say, no, it's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. So the sin and lust and greed, they're all saying to Kali, no, it's just a coincidence. Don't worry, he's just this is your age, Kali. We've got this. And he's going, no. Listen to them chanting. And then they say, okay, well, what we'll do is will send lust. They freely associate, men and women. They're associating together. They don't follow the principles. Like in the Vedic principles, the woman stays in the home, the man goes out. No, they're all freely mixing. It'll be easy. They'll be lusty. Oh, this is different. They can conquer their lust. They're going to experience. He's going to introduce them to the highest prema, the highest ecstatic. Nothing, no other age. Kali actually says, in such a yuga, they're yearning to take birth in this Kali yuga. Because of this process that's introduced. This is the only time in one day of Brahma that this process, the highest, most ecstatic, most confidential knowledge and of Krishna's Leela is exposed to the common folk. And they're saying, they're all common folk, don't worry about it. No, he changes them. They're not. He's a touchstone. I just made that up, by the way. So finally, he's going on and on like this, and I don't remember, I'm going to try to get it so I can do a better explanation of it. And so then, but he says, Kali finally says, so that, well, what are we going to do? And he says, well, irreligion, you should associate with those like the Brahmins born in high lineage, and they know all the rituals. You irreligion, you like the smarter Brahmins. So that can also go for in the Christian faith or the Muslim faith. You see how these priests, they misuse their religion for awful things, to justify slaughtering animals, to blowing up innocent people. Man, yeah, it's a good idea. You know, if you want to get Allah's approval, you just go and sacrifice yourself. Jihad! Go on a bus and blow everyone up, and you'll get 72 virgins. Not love of God. So that's where irreligion goes. So then, but mainly, like you could see how the Smarta Brahmins, like Prabhupada, they were fighting him all the way. What are you doing? I have clothes in my mouth. Sorry, I have a gum problem. So why are you giving these meat eaters, these malechas? You went across the ocean. You gave them the holy name. And by this act, the potency of the mantra will be lost. According to the play we did for Prabhupada. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Smarta Brahmins tell the Qazi, now he's introduced the hymn, this sacred hymn, to the untouchables, to the lower classes. And by this act, the potency of the mantra will be lost. And then Prabhupada says, but it is already increased! Hari-ho! Prabhupada became an actor in the play. And
where was this at?
Atlanta.
Where?
Atlanta, when Prabhupada came to Atlanta, we had organized a play. And Prabhupada said when the Smarta Brahmin said, but it's going to decrease the potency, and Prabhupada from the other side of the room goes, but it's already increased. I could have just ended the play right there, but I had a big speech to give. So, not big, but it was all Prabhupada's words. Everything was Prabhupada's words. So, or Krishnadas Kaviraj. So, and then Kali says and tell your wife, who is, she's lies? Yes, she's lies. You go and associate with the atheists. That'll work. And then your son, deception. you should go and associate with impersonalists and materialists. Materialists are always engaged in deceptive means to gain their goal, or to achieve their goals. So this is the way Kali's strategy was when on hearing on the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. And we see that actually Srila Prabhupada has begun the battle. He is pushing back Kali. And it is, we're the soldiers in that army. And this is the process of yoga. Unfortunately, Dhritarashtra, because of his offense, I mean, that's really literally what it is. He got an opportunity to get liberation, but because he offended the Pandavas, he wasn't advised to sit down on the banks of the river to listen to somebody like Parikshit Maharaj. After Dhritarashtra, and he did it within a week. He was very self-controlled. Within a week, he was able to attain liberation. After that, what did Vidura do? He went on pilgrimage to a holy place and to listen to the glorification of the Supreme Lord from holy sages. So I guess I'll end it here. But yesterday, by the way, was Ramananda Roy's disappearance day. Ramananda Roy is one of the 3.5 most confidential devotees of Lord Chaitanya. The other is Sri Damodar and Sikhi Mahidi, and the other Sikhi Mahidi's sister, the half, is, what is her name? Not Mitravinda.
Malini Devi.
What?
Malini Devi.
Malini Devi, yes. And she was involved in the Chota Haridas pastime. And Ramananda Roy is actually, what I've read, I don't remember if I read it in Chaitanya Charitamrita or somewhere else, but he's actually Vishaka. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advises Lord Chaitanya, when you go, you should meet up with Ramananda Roy, and when they see each other, they just immediately, actually Lord Chaitanya sees him, and in his mind he's running towards Ramananda Roy, but he stays in one place. But Ramananda Roy sees him, and he's a Sudra, and but he works for the government. I think he's with Pachaparuja, right? Is that it? No? Isn't he a servant of Pachaparuja or someone else?
He's
a minister for Pachaparuja. But when he was traveling, he had like 1,000 Brahmins with him, and they were all chanting holy names. And when they saw each other, they immediately embraced and rolled around on the ground. And everyone's like, all these Brahmins are going, what is this? This is a sanya. They said Lord Chaitanya was beautiful. He was like glowing, golden. He was very, his physique was he was very big, tall. His presence was very, notable. And he was wearing the saffron cloth. So they were expecting a sannyasi, more restrained activity. Instead, when he sees Ramananda Roy, a Sudra, he embraces him, and they're rolling around on the ground, chanting, Krishna, 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 Krishna! And so they all start chanting. And so then somebody comes along and asks Lord Chaitanya to come to his home for lunch. He does that, but then they make an appointment to meet. And then that famous dialogue between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy takes place. And I can see that we only have 5 minutes, so there's no way I can read it. I couldn't even read the first, But basically, Lord Chaitanya keeps asking Ramananda Roy, what's the highest thing? And he describes, and he finally ends up with the highest thing is the love that Radharani feels for Krishna. And I'm, just, that's sort of just a little, some substance, yes. Comment, question?
Yeah, I have 5 minutes, I just want to create a conflict before it's over.
Okay.
The,
It's Kali Yuga, come on.
I've always heard from the devotees that, I'm not stating that I'm an authority here, and I may be wrong, I could be, but I've always heard from the devotees that in Kali, always Lord Chaitanya appears. It's just in one Kali Yuga, this Kali Yuga, he appeared as an actual incarnation of Radha Krishna, otherwise it's Vishnu expansion.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But what I was reading recently, they didn't indicate that that's not true. They just said that this is the one where they don't get what we get. They were just saying that it's not the best they can become is very pious, and maybe they get liberation. And liberation could mean Vaikuntha.
They don't get Krishna prema.
No, they don't get Krishna prema. Yeah. So I may have, for dramatic sense, I kind of maybe try to highlight this one and downplay the others, but it's true.
They don't get Maharani Maha.
I didn't seem to get any either.
Your wife got
It's a Yuga Dharma to chant the holy name, so somebody somehow must come.
In this Yuga?
No, it's a Yuga Dharma.
I don't know.
So what else do we do in Kali Yuga? All the other Kali Yugas?
Well, I don't know about that, Lord Chaitanya. I don't know about that. It doesn't say.
Somehow they must be chanting the holy names anyways.
We need you to do a research paper on that. Yes?
If everybody can just allow me to speak a few words, because I'm not going to be here this afternoon about Mahalakshmi's mom.
Oh, good, sure, yeah.
I know Mother Mahalakshmi for quite a bit of time, I think. Many years she has always said...
Do you want to use the microphone?
That's okay, I'm loud enough. She's always said that I reminded her of her mom. Always she'll say that. And I just don't know what way she meant like that, so I always wanted to meet her. And I've met her only several times in the years that I know her. I could not see any similarity because she looks like a nice, calm person. I'm hyper, But I think I asked her one time, she said that her mom gets things done. She's a very nice person, she gets things done. So she saw that similarity in me with her, I think. But there are several things that Mother Mahalakshmi told me about her mom. One of the things really touched me is that when she saw the devotees, when she'll pass by, I don't know which city where she was, she'll see the devotees in the winter time. Not much winter clothes or socks and all that. She'll just go out and just buy these things and just go and offer it to the devotees. So in this way, she has this mood of serving the devotees all the time. And also she helped Vibhuja Prabhu Mahalakshmi, the grandchildren. She's always there for that. All she did was just serve the Vaishnavas and see what a nice blessing Krishna has given her the time when she leaves. She has Prabhuji over there, and that's just like, tells us something, She didn't do a lot of stuff like all of us are doing, but she did only one thing, or maybe more, serving the devotees, and she had such a glorious staff. So I feel like I have to say a few things. Thank you for allowing me. And hopefully y'all will have a great feast and celebration today.
Thank you, Mother Maharani.
Just one more thing. The writer of this play sucked Lord Chaitanya's toe.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's how he got this. When he was first born.
Not to go into it anymore.
But he was. I want to say he was an infant, and he crawled over to Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet and put his big toe into his mouth. They describe it as a petal of the lotus feet, and then shortly after that he was able to create very poetic verses, beautiful verses describing the beauty of Krishna and devotional service.
We have the book. I have that book. You saw the book? The Stika has it right now, but it's he's reading it eventually. And
What's the book?
what's the name of it again?
It's Krishnanika something. It describes the eightfold daily pastimes of Radha
Day
and
in
Krishna.
Krishna's life.
Ah,
Very intimate and incredibly sweet. And in there it explains that he's a Saki. He's one of the Sakis.
the Kavi, yeah.
Kavi Kavi.
Yeah.
He's one of the Sakis and intimate stuff. So she's writing from that viewpoint of the Leela of being there in the spiritual world. It's an amazing work. And so Prabhu's reading it. I think it takes like 1 year for him to read one book. So this year he should finish it. And then if you like to read, it's unbelievable. It's just a little book.
I think it might be online.
Yeah, well, it may be. It was translated by
Oh,
Mahanidi Maharaj.
Oh,
Very nice book.
last time I saw him was here, about 30 years ago.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's like we were in ecstasy beyond comprehension. I've never seen anything like it. It's such an intimate, internal vision into that, to spiritual, to Gokula Ranjana. Every day. I mean, it's like it just blows your mind beyond comprehension. Nothing like I've ever seen, But it's just funny there, because you're the first person I heard had mentioned him. And so I just happened to find his book on our shelf. I guess we picked it up in India somewhere along, and I took it and read it, and I just changed my whole life reading it. It's incredibly.
About what I've read of the Chaitanya Chandra Proya, because that section with the Kali's lament is just a small part of a very beautiful description of all these beautiful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, just like you're describing. But what I said in the class was directly from what Kavi Karan Kaur said. So that's my basis of what I used.
And his poetic ability came from sucking on Lord Chaitanya's toe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it said. That's what it said in this biography of him. Yeah.
He would. There was some other pastime where he would not. Something he wouldn't speak. I think at one point or something like that, and they said he was chanting in his mind or something. But I'm not sure if that's the same pastime. But I know at some point he stood before the Lord and just started. But they say it happened because he sucked on the Lord's lotus toe.
Yeah. And actually, Krishna used to suck his own toe. There's a picture of that. But one of the things I just wanted to mention about Ramananda Roy that I found interesting is that his father is Bhavananda Roy, who is Pandu, the father of the 5 Pandus. And Ramananda Roy is one of 5 brothers. Doesn't say that they are sometimes I've heard, I haven't seen it recently, but sometimes I've heard that Ramananda Roy, not only, I just recently read that he's Vishaka, but I've heard that he may also be someone else.
We just read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read every Monday, that he's a dual incarnation of Arjuna and Lalita Saka.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that maybe the other brothers who are, Yudhisthira, Bhima, like that.
Yeah, it's speculation.
Yeah, it's called philosophical speculation.
Google it.
Yeah, so, I plan on going and finding out for myself personally. All right, so, anyway, I gotta go.